Peace, peace, peace. So I'm going to just go back over that for you, Almighty. Knowledge and wisdom. I mean, gods and earths can do the knowledge, but I'm just saying, the true and living, right? So the question came up. I'm trying to answer all those questions that came up at the October for men when it's doing that man shit, 10-10 type shit. 10-10-2-5 type shit, right? So anyway, that's right, it ain't 2-5 yet, right, for that 10-10. But it was 10-10-2-4, but we gonna answer it. Because the God had already built on it already, right? He answered it, but I'ma just, build on and answer it for us, like divine understanding, born of law, we do it, set the record straight. Ancient order, free Asiatic, son of man, 7. But what happened was, when you go through the degree, right, as you traveling and you knowledge the wisdom, right, so you'll know and understand, right? So when you knowledge in the wisdom, even though that the way the camera is gonna make it look in reverse, right? When you knowledge in the wisdom and bringing about that understanding, what happens is you can see the orthodox side. So the orthodox side is not the Noble Drew Ali side, and it's not NOI, and those are like the two major Muslim moves under Islam that is being taught in the wilderness of North America, right? So let's just go through it right quick and get this on paper, right? So what happens is, we'll start with Noble Drew, right? Since that was like one of the first Islamic movements. So Noble Drew Ali was dealing with the free and sovereign Moors and Moorish Science Temple, Moorish Temple of Science. I mean, really, if you think about it, CM Bay was really dealing with the sovereign Moors, but it's still a bounce off the Moors, right? So there's a difference between CM Bay's Moors and Noble Drew Ali's Moors. They're not exactly the same, just like you would say, and they're really different. They're more opposed in their ideologies than, say, the 5% in the NOI. The reason I say that is because the NOI, Nation of Islam, Fruit of Islam, Fruit of Allah, Supreme Wisdom, 120, those manifestations are pretty much so close that if you're on the outside, you can't even see the difference, really, right? But if, say, you was to do the knowledge to CM Bay's Circle 7 Quran is Noble Drew Ali, but if you do CM Bay, Circle of Mothers and Sons, Constitutional Zodiac and all that, right? Sovereignty. They're both saying Moorish science, but CM Bay's Moors versus Noble Drew Ali's Moors, the dietary law from the gate is not even the same. Because I didn't see in Noble Drew Ali's teachings, I didn't see anything that was against the vegetarian, the vegan world. But in CM Bay, I didn't see him really address the vegetarian or the vegan world. He didn't address that. They both address nationality, culture, creed, and they both bear witness to Islam. And if I'm not mistaken, they both open up with Islam and then close with peace. All right, so that's that group, those groups. Right, Noble Drew Ali has the Circle 7 Quran, has the 101 questions, Moorish literature, like that, right? And after Noble Drew Ali left, the physical composition, they, as a group, moved more religious, as a religious organization than, say, a national organization dealing with nationality. So CM Bey and them came in 47. Noble Drew Ali came in 1913, 1 year before the end of the double civilization, right? 6,000 year rule, Yaqub, right? So then the next hit would be NOI, because by then W.D. Farad and the NOI making their moves. So when W.D. Farad makes his moves with Elijah, that's Islam too, but it's still not the Orthodox Islam, where you got the main two hits on the Orthodox is Sunni and Shiite, right? Shiites or Shiite, Sunni. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, the Prophet Muhammad, Abdullah ibn that side, right? So they're not the same in their manifestation, which I don't think, or I don't see the Noble Drew Ali and Elijah and his people, WD and all them, I don't see them really making a distinction between them and the Orthodox Muslims. They was really trying to teach Islam to the people in Wilderness North America based on what they went through. When the Prophet Muhammad was teaching the old world Islam, he was teaching it based on what they went through, right? And so now you're saying that when Orthodox Muslims made their move, as time went on and they figured out what Elijah and Noble Drew Ali was doing, they didn't really like Elijah Muhammad, and they didn't really like Noble Drew Ali. They were speaking against them. As the Orthodox Arab type Muslims were speaking against Elijah and Noble Drew Ali. They wasn't backing them on what they were teaching. So that is that group, right? So now you understand the separation between that. So when you in the Orthodox Muslims, they make Shahada, right? And they make wudu, and they make salat. And they adhere to a certain dietary law, but to me, their dietary law is not as restrictive as Noble Drew Ali's dietary law, and it's not as restrictive as Elijah Muhammad's dietary law. And then you have the last group, which was the babies of all of those groups that I just mentioned. These are the babies of those groups. Not necessarily they were part of those groups or in those groups or their parents was in those groups, but they're the children of that next generation, and that's where you see the 5% nation. So under the 5% nation, 5% nation, right? Under the 5% nation, who is falling under Allah, who the Muslims call Clarence Williams. We didn't address the father that way. So that was that beef that Knowledge God and them had, firstborn Knowledge God, Wakil and them. He had that beef with Wakil. That was because in Wakil's book, he would even address everybody that was part of the movement. Allah, read the book. You'll see he'd be talking about Allah. Everybody in there, he uses their righteous name. But then when he comes to the Father, he talks about the Father as if he was still in the NOI. So he'll keep using that terminology that the NOI used for Allah, right? So that caused a beef. And I don't know if he was just doing that to clarify who Allah is, but to me, you could have clarified it a little better. Like when I wrote the book, I used the name Puddin, Clarence, and all that. I used it based on the time frame. When I'm talking about him when he's a child and he's Put and he's Clarence and all that, I used that then. But as soon as he went into the NOI, I used the term he was calling himself then. He was Clarence 13X. And then when he left in like 62, he left the NOI. And now he sees himself as Allah, right? When he, around 1963, by the time firstborn Black Messiah is making knowledge born, right? He's Allah by then. So that's why I didn't understand how you going to say firstborn Black Messiah, Prince Allah, Duman, Shasha, all them, right? All the whole 14 from Medina and the first 9 from Mecca. When you talking about them, you use all their righteous names, right? But when you talking about Allah, I'm talking to you, Wakil. When you talking about Allah, you try to use his Muslim attribute. I don't know if you doing that because you just trying to clarify or unconsciously you being disrespectful, because it feels disrespectful to Almighty God or Allah and his 5%. It feels like you dissing him. That's why Knowledge God, he on you like that. He don't like the way you put in your book and call Allah Clarence 13X when you call yourself Wakil Allah, True Islam, and that's your people, that's your homie, right? And all y'all be talking, y'all got your knowledge originally from the 5%. And then when you went NOI, you start kind of like dissing Allah. So that's what he's talking about. That's why he ain't feeling you on that. And so I was just clarifying the different orders. Now on the side, you also have the Hebrew movement, which is not Jewish, right? You got a lot of different Hebrew groups. You got the Melchizedek Hebrew group. You have the Hebrew group under Cherry and all them, where you see the Hebrew Israelites and all them. You got them moving. All right, yo, what's good, Dred? You got the other Hebrew movement, which is like, because that's kind of, without, going all in depth, the Rastafarian movement is more Hebrew than I would say it is Islam. It's not Islamic movement. It's more of a Hebrew movement, right? Solomon and all that. As soon as you guys start going with Solomon, you going with the Hebrew movement. That's Hebrew. So the original Hebrews is like saying the first degree in the 1 to 10. Same manifestation. And so now that we cleared that up. So that's pretty much all of the major knowledge of self type groups in the wilderness North America. Then you got the political groups that came after those, would be the Panthers and all those kind of movements, which would make me think of Tupac and all of them falling under that, right? But inside the hip-hop world, the 5% had a big influence on the C and the understanding, which is C is the understanding, right, of knowledge itself and history and things of that nature. So I was just trying to clear that up for you so we can answer that question. Like the 5% nation, they not Muslims, and every one of us, we adhere to 120. That's a fact, and we adhere to supreme mathematics, supreme alphabet. All of us adhere to supreme mathematics, and all of us adhere to supreme alphabets, and all of us adhere to 120. All of us don't adhere to 12 Jews, but a lot of us do adhere to the 12 Jews. And even though we all know that the 12 Jews are in 120, right? And then what else comes? Oh, that's what I was saying to the guard. I said, well, you got to remember, I got knowledge of self. My beginnings, it starts in Medina. And so the first degrees I received was 9 Reasons Why Allah is God. And if you look in it, if you look in that degree, like anybody that's my student, they know that I gave them 9 Reasons Why Allah is God first. And they go, oh, well, the 9 Reasons Why Allah is God is knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, freedom, power, equality, God, builder, destroy, born, cipher. Because that's the way the 9 Reasons Why Allah is God. Now, when I got the mathematics, in my mathematics, my supreme mathematics, my supreme alphabets, then you start seeing power, refinement, and you see build or destroy and culture of freedom. But you don't see that in the 9 Reasons Why. The first degrees I received, right? And then the next hit is when we look at 120, we both looked at it in two ways. We not only looked at it as a 1 to 10, 1 to 36, 1 to 14, 1 to 40 actual fact, solar fact, but we also looked at it from 1 to 120. Right, so the first degree in 120 would be who's the original man? Original man is Asiatic black man, make, own, the cream of the planet Earth, father, civilization, God, the universe. And then we go all the way up to the 40th degree, which would be 100 and 120. And then you start going into your actual fact, solar fact, so finally you get to 120. And then we know that it's 122, but those other two we don't have a number next to them like that. So you can see that. I'm just making sure that my people understand what happened as far as you see how we see it from Medina. Like, it's just not the same, because that's just the way it is. Like Mecca, Medina, Pilon, and the desert, and the oasis. Like the oasis being Far Rock and the desert being Queens. We don't have exactly the same when you're talking about how the lessons are born. So I'm running out of time. I gotta go. Peace to the God, divine understanding, born of law. You know how we do it. Set the record straight. Ancient, no free Asiatics. Peace.